the Chase Thomas podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
54 game players. You can make an argument maybe for Lazan, or if you really want to poke the hornet's nest, sometimes Sissons. But Sissons is also your third leading goal scorer.
I was gonna say I respect Colton Sissons' game enough to know that they're not gonna do they're not gonna do that, and two, they shouldn't do that. So
okay, so then the guys with 52 games: Luke Evangelista, Cole Smith, Yakov Trenin. Still, I would say that they've outperformed. After that, Carrier, McDonough.
I don't think Yakov Trenin is really that necessary for this lineup. I'm gonna say it right now. I think that they should move on from him. I think that Philip Tomasino should play over him.
Okay, Carrier, McDonough, Parsonen, Novak, Fabro. Those are all the guys who have played as many or more games than Philip Tomasino. And again, I would be with you on this conversation if Tomasino was sitting at anywhere between 25 to 30 games played. I would totally be with you. But let's be honest, this guy, you've got guys like Philip Tomasino, Luke Evangelista. These guys are both high draft picks. These are guys who were drafted to be a cornerstone of this team. And I think that the difference has been pretty obvious. I love Luke Evangelista is progressing in a way that you would expect a player of his caliber. This is a guy that scored, over 100 points in the OHL in his last season. And like the last guy to do that, from a Preds perspective was freaking Ryan Ellis, who had something insane like 121 year. Philip Tomasino, it's one of those, I think if he had been given up on, it'd be a lot different. I don't think he's been given up on. But, some guys are just, again, too, like some of these guys had to play under John Hines. Some of these guys played under Laviolette. And sometimes you have to give them time to get that stink off them. It's like getting sprayed by a skunk. It's going to take a long time to get that stink off you.
Is a lot of this just solved after this offseason where so many of these guys are gone and then you can go full out with the youth movement here?
Some of it, I think, but I think this season, again, it's an audition. It is a let's see what combos work. Oh, and by the way, Jeff, you were wondering, there are 20 games and about 70 minutes of Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Parsonen. So there has been another combination.
Okay.
But, that's spread out, and I don't know if I would fully count
Jeff's
that.
not a combo guy. Jeff's not a combo. He's an individual kind of guy.
I think it's important. I
also think it's one of those arguments, and this is not one that Jeff's making, but like one of my biggest pet peeves is when people get so mad about the order of the lines when they announce it before a game. What do you mean he's a fourth liner? Like, no. I mean, it doesn't really matter. It's how they're played. It's situational playing. It's who you're with and how they're being used. It's whatever.
I was gonna say I'd focus more on the time on ice than anything. I'd focus more on the post game sheet than I would the pregame lineup.
Right, exactly. I mean, but it's one of those things. And it's like if this was a team that should be contending, if this is a brunette team in its third year and this is happening, it's one thing. But I think that the expectation, like the fact that they succeeded early in the season and looked surprisingly good. One, it's all because of, when four players on your team make up nearly half of all the scoring for you, like, I'm trying to come up with an expression for it, but it's like, honestly, like when you look at the rest of the team, we're kind of just being like, well, which of these turds is the least amount of turd? Like, they haven't been good. You can't rely on four guys to carry your entire team. You need depth scoring, and there is none. Again, Colton Sissons is the third highest goal scorer on this team. And no disrespect to Colton Sissons, but I think that says a lot about the rest of the team more so than it does about him. And, Nashville's lucky to have Ryan O'Reilly, Philip Forsberg, Roman Josi finally bouncing back into Roman Josi form. But, it's also got to be super frustrating to them when you get these different lineups and it's just not working. It's not working. It's not working. Try another lineup. It's not working. Like they can't do everything. Phil Forsberg, bless his heart, tries no matter what. There are points in the game where you see him being like, screw these guys. I'm going to try to do it myself. And sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But I mean, you've got to try out what you have. These are players that Nashville has the rights to right now. So they're getting a better evaluation time than the other teams who are maybe coming after him. And they've got to see what they've got, not just for a sense of, can this guy fit into our roster for the future, but which one of these guys is going to get us something that can accommodate that plan that we have in the future. Philip Tomasino missing 13 games out of this season so far. I'm not worried. Yes, are there guys that should be getting less ice time or guys that should not be getting ice time over Phil Tomasino? Sure. But Dennis Gurianov, he's played 13 games. We don't know. I mean, that's as many games as Liam Foudy played. You don't know what you have yet. And you've got to try it sometimes. You've got to see what a Kiefer Sherwood can do. You've got to see what a Mark Jankowski can do. Although I'm pretty sure I think we know what Mark Jankowski can do, and I think he does deserve to be in the NHL roster right now. You've got to see that.
I want to.
I
agree, but my problem is that they're not they're not seeing what they have with other line combinations for Phil Tomasino or like I don't understand. Sure, you want to get I don't think Kiefer Sherwood's bad enough to sit him the whole year, so you want to get him in sometimes. But I think you want to see what you have, but you're not seeing what you have with with their younger guy. Like you're not seeing. I think most of this is surrounding Philip Tomasino, but if you're if you play him with Michael McCarron and Cole Smith the entire year, yeah, he can play on the fourth line, but that's not what he's here for. That's not the minutes you want him to get. And frankly, his entire career, he hasn't gotten those minutes because the coaches that he played under, John Hines and now Andrew Brunette, have not given him the chance to see what he's got. And frankly, Andrew Brunette this year has not expressed a lot of confidence in Philip Tomasino. And I think that is probably, at least I would be frustrated with it, but I would assume it's a little frustrating when your coach goes to the media and starts, publicly bashing you for these little mistakes that you're making. And, it's one thing to be like, well, we'd like Philip Tomasino to be a little bit more consistent with whatever. That's different, but it's felt kind of constant this year. And it doesn't feel like there's ever been a time when Brunette has come out and just been straight up Tomer had a good game tonight or something. Maybe I'm wrong, and I hope to be wrong. In this, I mean, I don't want to hear that a coach has been coming out and doing that consistently. But from what I've seen, it doesn't feel like you really are seeing what you've got because you're keeping this kid down on the fourth line with two guys that can't score. I don't know. I mean, the fact that you played Denis Gurianov for 13 games and, in the 14th game or the 13th game, he comes in and just gets a spot on the first line. He's 26 years old or whatever. And he doesn't score. He just jumps up
But in
there.
this lineup, who does score?
Well, that's my point though, is Denis Gurianov is not going to be the solution.
But we said the same thing about Gustav Nyquist. We sat here the both of us saying that same thing.
Gustav Nyquist has a history. He can score. Denis Gurianov has one season of 20 goals at 24 years old, and that's it. Gustav Nyquist, for the couple years where he wasn't scoring a lot, has a history of being able to score when he's played with good players.
But you know what? We'll talk about history. Philip Tomasino has one season with more than 30 points. His career high in goals is 11. We can talk history and say the guy doesn't score. Huge Tomasino fan. Huge Tomasino fan.
No, that's my question though. Is why?
Who does Colton Sissons play with?
But Colton Sissons is not the same as Philip Tomasino.
That's right. Because Colton Sissons is a role player. But the problem is that Tomasino is not performing. He's not supposed to be, but he's a first-round pick. This is the last year of his rookie deal. You have to know what you're going to get because you have two options at the end of this year. Do you let this guy go who was a first-round pick, 24th overall, who was supposed to be a foundation of the new team going forward? You have to find out in these games, can he handle the pressure? Can he handle criticism? Can he handle being sent down? Or is that going to be something where he says, I needed to be better. This was a good chance for me to do that. That was a really good story. And I cannot remember who the player was. I think it was in The Athletic yesterday about someone going down and spend 22 games in the AHL when people really didn't think he should. And he was like, no, I absolutely should have. It's time for Philip Tomasino. The only way that we can settle this debate clearly is that Philip Tomasino comes in and plays like a first-round draft pick. Luke Evangelista is doing that.
Okay, I agree. But this is the same stuff that made me frustrated with Matt Duchene in those first 2 years, because Matt Duchene could not score for the life of him. And the moment that he starts, his analytics were good, he was playing well, and you brought up Philip Tomasino's history. When his first season, he was told by John Hines that he needs to straighten out his two-way game. His second season, despite his first year, him being probably the best defensive player that the Predators iced that year. At least top 5. His numbers were fantastic. Then the second year, he's sent down. He works hard on defense and he gets his confidence up. He scores in the AHL. He does everything he's asked to do. And then when he's back up, he doesn't play in the top 6. Like, he doesn't get power play time. He doesn't get the opportunity to really show what he's got. And then this year, it's the same crap. He's been stuck on the 4th line. Like, yeah, Matt Duchene in his first and second years with the Predators couldn't score. But the problem was because he was playing with Brad Richardson and Eric Howla. Like, sure, the history is not there, but when you play with guys that also can't score, then you should, I don't know what you expect. Like, I don't expect Philip Tomasino at 22 years old to be able to drive a line with Michael McCarron and Cole Smith on it. That's not
But again, I would argue, and this is odd for me to do this a year out, but who's the underperforming player on that lineup, those 3 players? Unfortunately, it's Phil Tomasino. He started out fantastic. His numbers, his analytics, plus 10 in goals above replacement. He has gone down. He went down to 3 last season, and he's sitting about 1.2. He's playing as a replacement level player. And what's the judge of where replacement level is? It's your 13th forward or your 7th defenseman. It's usually a guy who's in the AHL. And that's just been the way it is. And again, there's 2 things. Yes, give him chances. Maybe give him more time with those top lines. Good, sure, fine. But
I'm gonna note that Philip Tomasino is 8th in expected goals above replacement.
Expected, yes.
Yeah. So he's 8th on the team, and you're.
Yes, because this is a replacement level team. That's what this is.
But my point is that's not. One, I would argue that number could absolutely be influenced by who he's playing with, because he's not.
By its and we're gonna get way deep into the nerd stuff, but by the way the metric works, it's specifically to isolate them from the players that they're playing with.
Yeah, but it's not perfect though. You watch him, and he's clearly not like. I mean, I can't believe a nerd am doing this, but you watch. If you watch the games,
how dare you? How dare you assume I would ever do something like that?
Test. Do it, Jeff.
I watch these games, right? And I try to watch as many as possible. And I don't. Every time I watch Philip Tomasino play with Michael McCarron and Cole Smith, Michael McCarron more than or Cole Smith more than either. I mean, I don't think Cole Smith he's not a world. At least Michael McCarron's been scoring this year, and I believe the expected goals. I don't know, the expected goals above replacement number for him is actually pretty low. But it reminds me. It reminds me of that. No, it reminds me of that clip of Matt Duchene giving a perfect pass to Eric Goodbranson, and Goodbranson completely whiffing and going through his legs. Like, that's just what I imagine. There have been so many times this year where I have watched Philip Tomasino attempt to create offense, and there has just been no help from the other guys. And that's like, you don't even have to stick him on the first line. Stick him with Tommy Novak, man. He's been really good with Tommy Novak. Like, I don't know. It's the same stuff as the Matt Duchene for me. Like, obviously they're different in terms of Matt Duchene was older and he had proved himself. He had been, 70 point scorer or whatever. But, Matt Duchene wasn't getting 70 points playing with fourth liners. He was up on every team's top line or their second line. He was playing with Mike Hoffman and Mark Stone. Like or Ryan Dzingel actually. But like he just like, as much as Philip Tomasino's history is not great, I would argue that his history has kind of been indicative of where he's been stuck in the lineup. And the same went for Eeli Tolvanen. Eeli Tolvanen, in the year that he was getting first power play minutes and playing with top guys like Philip Forsberg, he was in the Calder conversation for a while before he got hurt. And then after he got hurt, he didn't see the ice with any of those guys. And then everybody was like, why isn't he scoring anymore? Why? And he was like taken off the first power play unit. And everybody, like, it was like, John Hines was like, oh, he's not scoring. Like the decision was like, he's not scoring anymore. He needs to go work on his defensive game and his physicality. And he did that. And then he didn't get a lineup promotion. He didn't end up playing with those guys again. Like, it doesn't. If Philip Tomasino, I'll say this just because I'm rambling. If Andrew Brunette came out, brought Tomasino back up, they brought him up, and we're like, you know what? We like what you've done in the AHL. We're going to stick you with Philip Forsberg and Ryan O'Reilly for, I don't know, the rest of the season or half of the rest of the season, 15 games or whatever. And if you don't perform like we need you to, then you're going back on the fourth line or you're going back to work down low against these lesser matchups. And he doesn't perform as he should, even though 15 games is still a relatively small sample size. If he doesn't perform like he should, I'm more than happy to stick him on the fourth line, stick him on the third line, whatever.
Let me ask you this, Jeff. You're making decisions. You get to decide the rest of this season, but like based on what we've seen so far, right now, the projection for Tomasino in free agency looks to be around $1.85 million for about 2 to 3 years.
Uh-huh.
Do you sign Philip Tomasino to that contract right now?
I mean, what do they have to lose?
Like, well, I mean, a lot, but
for 3 years where they are, I don't know.
They're going to be losing like $10 million in cap space for the next 2 seasons for players that are not playing for them anymore. I mean,
well,
money, you're also, if they keep Saros,
a decision I was against, but
Saros is going to going to cost a lot more than $5 million here very soon. They should trade. I don't like your attitude tonight, Jeff. Jeffrey.
I know, I'm snarky.
How dare you invoke Tolvanen right now on this? But no, but I mean, I see what you're getting at. But here's
like, this brings me to $5 million off the books, like right there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm not gonna. We've had this conversation. I will say this: that the fact that this has been an argument and this has been a point of contention, it's a good thing, because you know what? Like, if that's what we're arguing about in this season and the way things are going. I mean, I'll take it. Yeah. This has not been a team. I'm going to knock on wood. This has not been a team that has dealt with a massive amount of injury problems. We have not seen any controversy. None of their former CHL players are currently getting ready to go to trial. Yeah. Shout out to Dante Fabro for being a decent human being. I mean, I think that, all things considered, this team is pretty much exactly what I thought they would be and probably what they should be. And that's fine. And yes, it sucks to not fill Bridgestone. Bridgestone has been getting pretty empty these days. But it happens. And that's fine. But you just have to have this, we spend years, people saying like jettison everybody into the sun and start completely over. Well, you start doing things like that and they start losing. It's kind of like, well, what did you expect? And I'm kind of glad. I'm not glad, but I think it's a good thing in some ways to see Juuse Saros struggle this year, because he's not going to mask the problems that David Poile ignored for so long. Yep. Not to say that I hate David Poile, but I mean, like, a lot of what they've been doing this season is either dealing with or getting rid of the albatrosses that Poile put around their necks to start their tenure with the Preds. I mean, it's just the way it's been. And if this was a team, let's say it's the same roster, or maybe, whatever, and it's Laviolette or Hines getting the same record, I still would feel more confident in Brunette, even though I might be the only person who didn't think Hines was terrible. Like, it's a different thing, because the way they're doing it, the way they're getting guys to the net front movement, the work that they do, the fact that Brunette runs so much of his offense through players who stand behind the goal makes me so happy. They don't, zone entries aren't, we're gonna shoot it as fast as we can around the rim of the wall to make passes. Like, it's great, and the results will come. I would rather this team be what they are right now, doing the things the way they are, than them being a third in the Central team and just getting their asses handed to them in the playoffs. That was Laviolette's thing. He was a regular season coach. It got to the playoffs, the man just refused to adjust. And when you play a 7-game series for 4 rounds, good coaches are going to look at film and adjust what they do to what their opponent does. Laviolette never did that. And I'm sorry, Rangers fans, you can come at me if I'm wrong about this, but you're going to find that out very, very soon. He's a very good regular season coach. Only coach has only lost 3 Stanley Cup finals, which, again, that is an accomplishment. And that's something to be proud of, but he's rigid, and that's what's going to happen. Brunette is the opposite. He is a work on the process now. The results will come later, and that's what it is. We're not seeing, like, Michael McCarron, Yakov Trenin, Cole Smith. These are guys we've all at one point in time said they're in there because they're big. They're in there because they hit. That's it. And that's the only reason. I would say all 3 of those guys have made a case that that's not what they're only about, and have proven to be a little bit more rounded players than what all of us expected. Again, I still think, myself included, that the Preds fan base needs to give a collective apology to guys like Cole Smith. I've got my guys, Jeremy Lazon. I owe the man a big apology. Alex Carrier, I am his biggest cheerleader because I was his biggest hater when he was in the AHL. It's those things. But again, like, considering everything, the people who are like, we need to reconsider the coaches, or we need to do this, we need to sell what you can, do what you can, but, like, what do you expect? And this is how you start over. It's the way it goes.
Rip the Band-Aid off.
It's the Band-Aid. It sucks. I will not take that from anybody to say this sucks. I don't want to spend money to watch this team play right now the way they played tonight. But this is what happens. And the good thing about the NHL is there's 82 games. All this gets forgotten when they go on like a 4-game win streak, or Philip Forsberg scores a hat trick, then it's all forgotten. But let's just be honest with ourselves. This is not a great team. It might be a decent team, but it's not a great team. It's kind of bad, and that is okay.
Yep.
There we go.
But
Jeff,
again, we're arguing about Tomasino, so, like, I think that things are pretty good.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Even just lineup decisions in general, I feel like we're doing all right.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. It was therapeutic.
That's right. Yeah,
it was good. Jeff, what can the good folks check out from you all across the internet this week?
Well, I got Miami hockey is on their bye week, so the games this weekend, unfortunately. Season's wrapping up, which blows. But good news is that Miami baseball starts tomorrow, 4 p.m. Got a preview coming out tomorrow morning on
Nicely done, nephew.
South Carolina.
The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.